Alright everyone, we have to talk about Charlie Crist, of course running against Ron DeSantis for the gubernatorial slot in Florida. Crist will lose. I expect DeSantis to win by 5 or 6 points, so pretty good. Again, the real analysis after the midterms will be who did better against their opponent. Greg Abbott against the moron running against him, or Ron DeSantis running against the increasingly obvious moron running against him. I don't know, I'm thinking that DeSantis might actually edge out Greg Abbott in the advantage scale because of specifically who he's running against. Link in the description. I realize this is from a biased source. This video clip comes from the DeSantis War Room. But it is a clip of Crist, not lacking full context. And it's funny because Crist is doing what Biden has done recently. Biden gives his hellish speech about MAGA being extremists, and how now 80 million or so Americans are Nazis. And then literally the next day, when asked by Peter Doocy, when asked by the press corps, or the few members there that actually attempt to conduct meaningful journalism, and that's definitely a stretch even for their standards. Just to be clear, not a fan of Fox News, boycott all legacy media. Then he immediately backtracked. He did a 360 and walked out of the room and said, no, I don't really mean that. I don't feel a threat by Trump supporters. It's basically just Orange Man is bad. He's a fascist. He's big baby, poopy pants, all this other shit. Literally the next day he backtracked on his backtrack yet again. It's like he's doing an elaborate form of fucking kabuki theater dance or something, and then says, no, I really do mean it. MAGA really is fascism. You're all evil people. And it was basically a deplorables moment. It's gotten panned by the public to disastrous effect, I think, to some Democrats in the race. Crist here does the same thing. In the same 1 minute span, he talks about how they wanted to be the kind, the noble candidacy. We're going to be the nice ones. DeSantis, he's full of hate and vinegar against everyone, says weird shit. The Republicans, they're full of hate. By the way, did you hear that some people call him DeSatan? Ha ha ha. Oh, but no, we're going to be the nice ones here. It's a dog whistle. The DeSantis War Room here is proclaiming that he's comparing himself to Jesus in saying that. That's a little bit of a stretch that you can insinuate that, but really it's just a swipe at DeSantis. It doesn't really make any sense. And considering the sound in the room, I'm wondering about how many people were actually watching Crist speak. I have a feeling it's a lot smaller than the DeSantis gatherings. It sort of echoes of the last election where Trump has 10,000 people packed into a stadium with several thousand outside watching a screen because there's no more, not even standing room inside. And then Biden going to a Farmville community out in the middle of nowhere to talk to 30 or 40 people, all of which are socially distanced. To the point where they had drive-in sort of political spectacles there, and stay in your car. That'll keep you socially distanced. Keep the windows up too, and blast the radio so that you can't hear what crazy shit Biden is saying currently. People were honking at him the entire time and heckling him thereby, and it was very funny. It looks about the same. When you as a candidate want to cast yourself off as the nice guy, you're going to do unity and all of these buzz terms that really are completely vacuous, you can't then also make up funny names about your opponent. We see this more and more, by the way, from Democrats. They took a leaf out of Trump's book. It's like he infected them with Trumpism. And now you see his kind of tweeting is proliferated across the political sphere all over Twitter, for example, and certainly elsewhere. It's almost like I think that Trump is the most impactful single figure in American politics that we've seen in 100 years, simply because of this. I mean, basically, the closest thing would be the beginning of televised presidential debates back in the middle of the atomic era. That'd be the next closest thing, I think. I find this absolutely hilarious, though. Crist has gone insane. This is not the way to carry yourself, especially in the 11th hour. I mean, you've got less than 2 months to go till midterms. You're at least reasonably close to your opponent, even though you don't really have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. But now you're just making an embarrassment of yourself. It's almost like Beto melting down, and he is. He's gone back to doing cringy shit. He's doing the barnstorming style of in-person campaign approach, and he's trying to be like a microcosmic Obama, and it hasn't really worked for him. Greg Abbott will win handily against Beto O'Rourke. I suspect based on this kind of pivot from Charlie Crist, from kind of stepping back and just fixating on a few niche issues, abortion, etc., to attempting to joke about his opponent, making these sorts of jabs, I suspect it's not being done because his internal polling numbers look good. So he's gone nuts. A lot of people, this is the case for content creators too, they have a lull in subscriptions or a lull in views or something. Clearly they're not roaring ahead like they were. They misdiagnose it and say, oh shit, I've got to change everything up. And then they end up destroying, 9 times out of 10, they destroy their own content creation careers as the result of this. Sort of like what MySpace did. They had a good thing going, saw what Facebook was doing, said, hey, let's copy that. Let's take the uniqueness of our site and denigrate it entirely in order to keep up with the Joneses. And they alienate half of their own user base and it becomes a fucking wasteland. I see the same thing happening in politics. A politician just doesn't quite cut it. They're 3 or 4 points behind. They know that they're probably not going to make it. They've got maybe a 20% chance. And they're sad about this because they want power and money and all of these other wonderful things. And so instead of doing what a normal person would do, which is ask, why am I not connecting with voters enough? What other block of voters can I woo? Can I wine and dine and steal from my opponent without alienating significant numbers of any of my core base that I've already got? Instead of examining what new platform they could push to the fore, how they could reconfigure the way in which they run their candidacy in a meaningful way, in a way that will appeal to people, they just start hurling insults, or they disappear from the campaign trail, or they do a Katie Hobbs and they quirkily refuse to debate, or something like that. I think that in the gubernatorial sense, the Republicans are going to crush it in the midterms. Based on the fact that DeSantis and Greg Abbott and Kemp, especially in Georgia, are big pickups that the Democrats want. Their entire strategy basically revolves around gubernatorial and Senate seats. They know that they've lost the House, so they've pivoted. Another statement from pathetic weakness, by the way. They're not going to make it in the gubernatorial sense. Hell, it's looking less and less likely that they'll hold on to the Senate, with Herschel Walker at the last moment managing to supplant Warnock, and we still need more polling, but seemingly having an advantage there. And with Fetterman declining day by day, we'll be talking about his cringe Fetter woman declaration in our live stream later. I'm giving maybe less than even odds that the Democrats do half as well as they expect. They're expecting like 6 pickups. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm loving the midterms, though. What I really like about these midterms is that there are so many races that are razor thin, because that means that they're uncertain. And that means we have to do a lot of extra analysis and guesswork. It gives me more work to do. I fucking love this. This is the greatest job in the world, by the way. Just saying, I might be biased, but it just fucking works. That's about all. Peace out.